Welcome in Horns 2020 Nation to Season 4, Episode 9. You got Zach and I here with you, recapping all the Texas Longhorns sports over this past week. Today is October 24th, 2025. And Zach, do we have a lot to uncover today? So first things first, Texas walks away with a huge overtime thrilling win over the Kentucky Wildcats in Lexington this past week. One of the best games of the year, as many would say, but also at the same time, very many would disagree. But we'll be recapping that game, previewing the Mississippi State game, talking about other sports across the 40 acres, as well as our Longhorns that are in the NBA as it started this week, Zach, and some of our NFL standouts. So we'll be talking about that a little bit, and then, of course, we'll be giving you our Week 9 picks against the spread, where hopefully y'all are tailing and making a little bit of money. So Zach, let's go ahead and get started. So Texas walks away with a huge victory over the Kentucky Wildcats, 16-13. A game-winning field goal kick was made by Mason Shipley, a 45-yarder, after a huge four-down stoppage. I don't know how I'd word that, but a huge stop for every down against Kentucky. They had the ball first in overtime. And, it really came down to the heroics of the Texas defense here. But Zach, how are you feeling after this week? Are you mentally recovered after watching this game?
Honestly, AJ, this was one of the worst games I think I've seen. It's right up there with Kansas a few years back that ended another coaching era for Texas. It was up there with that one, to be honest. It was, when you say it was probably one of the best games, I hope that was being sarcastic, just because at the end of the day, it was a brutal performance overall. There was nothing good about it. At the end of the day, I was glad that Sarah and I were away. We went for a relaxing weekend out in the Texas Hill Country, got some time in the hot tub, got to be out in nature, and that helped just get over the game a little bit quicker than I think we normally would have been. So overall, happy we came away with the win. Everybody talks about it's not easy to play in Kentucky. It's not easy to play an SEC opponent at night, but this was a pretty brutal performance. AJ, how have you been holding up?
Yeah, that game probably took a little bit of some years off my life, Zach. Just super confused leaving that game. I mean, we obviously have the huge Red River game where Texas kind of dominates OU in that sense, and all of a sudden seeing it all disappear the following week was very discouraging. Especially for the season. But I got to ask you one question, Zach, and I don't know if this is enough to give you some sort of optimism, but would you rather have this Game Pass weekend, or would you rather be, in the spot of Miami, Texas Tech, even Ole Miss for that matter?
Yeah.
I mean,
at the end of the day, I'm never going to apologize for our win, AJ. To be honest, I will never trade in being a Longhorn for anybody else. Even at our worst, AJ, they still kick off our little brother, Texas A&M, from the main broadcast on ESPN, move them over to ESPN, News, to go ahead and broadcast our just shootout of a game against Kentucky instead of their game. So, I'll never trade in being a Longhorn. I'd be in our position 100% of the time.
Yeah. I didn't mean in the sense of, being a fan of another school, but, if Texas was in that spot, But Zach, one thing I did come out from this game is that I'm going to celebrate every win this season because I honestly don't know how many more this team has left in them. So the Kentucky win, I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. We're still alive for the college football playoff and the SEC championship. We're good. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, at this point, AJ, I'm treating us like an underdog. You just keep letting us hang around. I'm going to enjoy the ride. You keep letting us hang around, and we're going to make something happen at the end, maybe. But as you said, it's ugly right now. Everything is ugly. We are Iowa. We are what Penn State was, whatever you want to call us. It's not pretty, but at the end of the day, as you said, we're going to enjoy it. We're never going to apologize for a win. And, hey, you keep letting an underdog just circle. You keep letting them hang around, and you never know what can happen. So
Yeah, when there's blood in the water, we smell it, Zach. That's exactly what happened this past weekend. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, like how much I guess like coping mechanisms is are we using for this game? Because I know like Michael Taft comes out in the post game press conference afterwards, compares this to the Georgia game last year, where Georgia snuck away with a victory over Kentucky, 13-12. Are you kind of buying that, Zach? Or I mean, I know it's his job as a is like a team captain to always be optimistic about these things, but is that something we should buy?
no, I think that's his job being a team captain, as you said. I do think there is time to be critical of where this team is standing at this point in time. Yeah, it's tough to defend what is going on. It's tough. You're starting to see the frustration building on Sark with his press conference comments. You're starting to see body language from Arch that even at the beginning of the year, you could tell that he was struggling, but you could tell that there was still, it's a work in progress. You could tell that his positive comments at the end, you could tell that these frustrations are building up. So that's why I agree with you in the sense that we don't know how much longer it's going to be until maybe the wheels fall off of this thing. Because yeah, I think Michael Taft is one of the few with positive sentiments left, or that has not grown frustrations. And at this point in time, now he's no longer going to be on the field for the expected 2 to 3 weeks, which we'll get into shortly. But yeah, it's getting tough to constantly see a bright side, even in these tough performances.
Yeah, I know. It's like you can really look at it both ways. Like we are maybe a couple steps away from being a team that's thriving, dominating their opponents, but like you mentioned, we're also a few clicks away from the whole thing being torn down and throwing away the season. And we see that with other teams like Clemson. All it took was one real big breaking point for what it feels like the team to give up. Florida State too. So yeah, it's like this team. I say this every week, Zach. I still don't know like where this team is at. If we were to take out the mental part of this game, I still think this team is top 5 in the nation, maybe even number 1. But I mean, that's what makes this game interesting. Is you can never gauge the mental toughness of a team, or where a team is at mentally. So that's a tough part. Zach, let's go into the O line, because I think this was one of the all-time worst offensive line performance under Sark's tenure. So I believe per PFF, the highest grade given was to DJ Campbell, who I believe scored in the 80s. But then you have the opposite end of the spectrum where, you have Nick Brooks with 14. Who else? Connor Robertson in the 30s. Trevor Gooseby, 60s. And, it's like the O-line scores really reflect how they looked on Saturday. So let's get into that, Zach. Like, what's going on? Like, what happened?
Yeah, AJ, I think it's time to. We talked about Sark a couple weeks ago and talking about starting to heat up the seat a little bit. I need the stove to be completely on under Coach Flood's seat at this point in time. And I know everybody's going to talk about all the high class recruits that he's brought in, all of the 5 stars, where these lines have been compared to Texas lines of the past. At the end of the day, the performances are very close to what we were seeing back in the Sam Ehlinger days. Shane Buechele days, and that's just unacceptable when you're talking about the level of recruits that we have, the level of NIL funding that we have. I'm just going to say this, to be brutally honest. He might be a great recruiter, but at the end of the day, I think money speaks, and I think we can go get ahead and get a coach that might develop these players a little bit more than what we've seen under Coach Flood, and he'll be able to perform and recruit at the same level because the money speaks, and that pancake NIL fund from Texas is always going to speak, and we're always going to be at the top of that at this point in time. And that's just where I stand under Coach Flood at this point in time, because you said, AJ, it was piss poor. It was, again, a regression from what we've seen against OU. There was no running room. Pass blocking was terrible. Not even Arch at this point can get out of the pocket to create things with his legs. It was bad, AJ. There was really nothing to highlight. And when we're talking about DJ Campbell being the highest rated offensive lineman on your offensive line, you have issues. I think that's pretty much what we can sum up there. We have issues. And when I'm seeing Calvin Banks being the highest rated on his team and with the Saints in the NFL, it really makes you cherish the moments that we had with him because we are piss poor right now on the offensive line.
Yeah, and Sark did mention this in his press conference this past week, where he could see some long-term changes being made, and that kind of felt like could be taking some shots at some of the assistant coaches. I can see Kyle Flood having a very hot seat right now. But Zach, I'm gonna give the team a little bit of benefit of the doubt from this past weekend's game, and in the long term, like in totality, looking at it, yes, the offensive line has done a very bad job this season. But one thing I do want to mention, the injury to Cole Hudson may have been a little bit more underrated than we thought. We had him for the OU game, and we felt like the offensive line was clicking and everything looked good. But now that he missed his Kentucky game, that's where we kind of feel like things went bad. Obviously, Nick Brooks lines up right next to Cole Hudson. Yep. Cole Hudson being the center, Nick Brooks the left guard, and then we have Gooseby at left tackle. So when you're looking at those scores, you can always attribute it to bad performance. But then when you look at the flow of the offensive line, the continuity, it wasn't there. So I want to give a little bit of a pass here, but that still is inexcusable to what this offensive line has done throughout the year. And Coach Flood, I know he's supposed to be our offensive coordinator, our offensive line coach, but we're just not seeing any sort of positivity or any sort of optimism come from that unit. So all in all, I think we have this next game to kind of understand where this offensive line unit is. Obviously, Cole Hudson not playing in Mississippi State this next weekend, but all in all, the job is terrible. And there's so much money that goes into this where, developing talent should be the least of our concerns, because we're supposed to be attracting high-end recruits year in and year out, and we are, but they're just not putting it on the field. So that's where we kind of have to look at coaching here, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you, AJ, and you make a great point. Cole Hudson, it can never be underestimated how much a center means to an offensive lineman. It is similar to losing a quarterback on an offense. They are the quarterback of the offense. They change up. Missing your center changes up the cadences that you're used to. It changes up the calls that you're being used to in terms of adjusting the line for pressures. It's not only all on the quarterback. A huge part of that is also your center. So at the end of the day, whether he's a freshman or whether he's a 4-year returning starter, it is tough to lose your center. But with that being said, as you said, AJ, I even want to let Sark off the hook a little bit, and I don't know if he deserves it, but when you have that type of line, when you have that type of non-protection, I don't know what play caller, similar to the pass I'll give to Arch, even though he was bad mechanically this past week, and it was his worst game of the season, in my opinion. There's nobody that's going to be successful behind that offensive line. And I know the questions came to Sark this past week of, is he going to let up the play calls? Because if you start looking at Ryan Day last year, let up the play calls, it allows you to be the CEO of the offense. It allows you to be the CEO of the team, essentially. It allows you to take a step back. And Sark kind of got defensive about that, saying that that's his superpower, is calling plays, and he's not going to relinquish that. I do think it takes some consideration in the new day and age of NIL, understanding all of the trips that he's making in between the week, the recruiting process, having to step in on defensive meetings, special teams meetings. His mind isn't fully into the offensive game plan as what he was with Alabama, USC, Washington. And that's completely understandable. But at the end of the day, I think that's a self-reflection point for him. I will say, though, I just don't see anybody else coming in as an OC and having success if this is the type of offensive line we're going to have.
Yeah. Zach, just because you mentioned this topic, I got to ask you, don't know if you saw the graphic that was kind of circulating on the internet, but there was a graphic on national championship winning coaches over the past 50 years. Can you take a guess as to how many of those 50 coaches, which ones won the national championship as the play caller?
Honestly, the only one I'm familiar with is Jimbo Fisher, I think, with Florida State.
All right, you got 33% of them, because there's only been 3 coaches that have been the head coach position as well as the play caller for the team to win a national championship. So, I don't know if that graphic goes hand in hand with what Sark said this past season, but I mean, the numbers you can't deny, Zach. I don't know if a play calling head coach is the recipe for winning a national championship. In some cases, it is, but yeah, in some cases, it could also be the drawback of a team. And I think like one recent example of this too, Zach, is Ryan Day being able to win a national championship. He was a play caller for Ohio State. But then eventually ended up dropping that, I believe, to Brian Hartline. Is it last season? Yeah, yeah, and that's pretty much why they won the national championship. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up real quick because I thought that was really interesting. I didn't know there was that big of a disconnect between the two.
If you still have the graphic, who are the other two coaches?
Dude, it's like in the 50s. I think I have it up right here. Sorry, there was 4 other ones.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 4 other ones. So there's Tom Osborne with Nebraska, Steve Spurrier with Florida, who is obviously one of the top offensive play callers of this generation, and then of course, controversial one here, but Joe Paterno. I didn't know he was like that.
Yeah, Joe Paterno. We're not going to talk about much here, but I mean, the reason I had asked was just correlation-wise. Like I was wanting to see who the quarterback of those offenses were. When I think of Jimbo Fisher, I think we can all safely say after his time at A&M is that I think that was more of a product of Jameis Winston more than anything else.
Sure.
I don't know if he had to be so successful to go ahead and I don't know if he was the ultimate play caller is essentially what I'm saying, and a head coach. I think that was more a case of similar to Auburn with Cam Newton. It was just all around freak athlete, similar to Texas with Vince Young, is that one man can literally carry a team on their shoulders. And I think that was the correlation there. But when you mentioned the other big coaches, I don't think they had that type of player either. So as you said, it's difficult to see. It is a trend that has some to it. So I hope there is a point of reflection to Sark. I don't know if he needs to completely step away, but I do think there needs to be somebody else in the room that can dedicate as much time as that is needed to this offensive room and developing these guys, because we've definitely seen a regression across the board. It's not just with the offensive line. As I said, Arch, even though he was under pressure, played terribly. We've talked about Wisner AJ, you said it best. You texted the other day. You have Wisner fatigue. He hasn't developed. His vision just doesn't seem there week to week. He doesn't have burst. The wide receiver room just hasn't developed, nor have we seen our 5-stars perform, or even on the field for that matter. So yeah, across the board, it just seems like we're lacking in development. And I have to think maybe if there is somebody that can dedicate the time that that Sark can't, because he is on the road, he is doing CEO things with the program, we could benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, just taking the CEO role. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've never been a head coach or coaching for football in any matter, but I just don't know how hard it is just to bring in someone else, call your plays for you. I mean, it's not like they have full independence on that. Like, just start to, hey, I want to call this in this situation. He can give him the game plan, just call the plays, and just do all that while Sark kind of focuses on everywhere else. I mean, I don't know how hard that is, Zach, but I mean, Sark makes it seem like that's like DEFCON level 5 right there, which I don't understand.
I will talk from experience, AJ, from coaching the YMCA team back in 2017, 2016 with the yeah, it's quite difficult to manage a team. So I'll give Sark credit on that end. He obviously didn't have to deal with the circumstances that we had to deal with some needy parents. But dealing with Toby all the time, AJ, it is a tough situation to just be on that. And now that we're in the day and age that we have to pay players, I couldn't imagine dealing with Toby if I had to pay him, to be completely honest with you. So I feel some sentiment for Sark. But at the end of the day, yeah, I do think at the end of the season, there might need to be some time for self-reflection if this season doesn't turn out to be the best.
Yeah, lots of parallels with the YMCA team there, Zach. Good example for all of us outside looking in. But yeah, I mean, I'd rather him just take that CEO level role, just bite the bullet. I know you were hired to be our play caller, offensive genius, but that's not working out. And that's where leadership kind of comes in Sark. Like, does he really have it in him to give up, what he likes doing most? So, I don't know. But yeah, all in all, just to run through some quick stats, Arch went 12 for 27 with 132 yards of offense. I believe, yeah, I believe Kentucky. Trying to find the right number here, but Kentucky outgained us on the ground. I think it was one of the biggest discrepancies for a team to lose by. Yeah, 20 yards, 9. Kentucky with 395 yards. Huge difference there. Don't know how we win this game, but I think that just tells us it's a testament to how good our team is on defense. And Jack, let's get into that. So run through some quick stats. I feel like player of the game, definitely Colin Simmons. Probably played his best game of the season so far. He had 3 sacks. All came in during really crucial moments. Manny Muhammad and Trey Moore were also able to get a sack. Jelani McDonald, a couple of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. And then, of course, you have Anthony Hill getting a interception. There were also four forced fumbles. However, none of them were recovered somehow. A couple of chances where we did have them recovered, but that didn't happen. But yeah, Zach, I know defense had a really good team, but defense had a really good unit. They played probably the best as they could, as the offense could give them. But I want to get into the passing attack, Zach, because that kind of worries me. Cutter Boley, he went 31 for 39, 258 yards, no touchdowns, but however he did run one in, threw an interception. But yeah, it just felt like Cutter Boley, any pass he was making, he was completing. So I don't know. I mean, I know defense obviously looked good, but Cutter Boley, still a very below average quarterback, was able to have a good game.
Yeah, blow me.
Cutter Boley.
I don't know how much weight to put on it. You talked about we were pretty much doubled in terms of yardage. We were past doubled in terms of time. We just, again, complimentary football. We weren't putting our defense in the best position, and our defense only let up 13 right?
Yeah.
Just for them to still only let up 13 points, it's something that I'm going to value over in terms of where the game was and how they performed rather than the yards given up. I will say I do think the game plan was to sell out against the run, because where Kentucky had success last year when they visited Austin was on the run. I saw that game very similar to Florida. So I do think it was a sellout against the run and make Connor Blomey beat us, and essentially that was the game plan. On top of, again, just the defense was out on the field for so much time that obviously there's some wary legs there, and that they were still able to hold up. I'm going to put my value more on that end more than anything else. But I can see where your concern is, and I think that's something to monitor from here on out. But I'm still going to side with that we do have an elite defense, and that it was more of a matter of game plan as well as time on the field more than anything else.
Okay. That's a good perspective of looking at it, because it's like, yeah, defense played well, but when you look at, if Cutter Boley is able to do that, what will Diego Pavia do? What will for your case, Zach, what will Taylon Green do? But yeah, it was just one eyebrow raising stat I had to point out, but. Yeah, I can side with that take. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, no. And there was times, AJ, that I was skeptical of what we were doing on defense. I messaged you guys, even at the end when we kicked that field goal, at the end of regulation to go up. I hated it more than anything else in the game, and it happens at all levels of the game, is defenses fall into prevent defense. And now in today's day and age where the offenses are what they are, where you do have the ability to stop the clock so frequently, there is no reason you play prevent defense unless there is, 20 seconds left on the clock. But you said this saying the first time I ever heard it, AJ, and now I say it all the time. Prevent defense prevents you from winning games. And I messaged you guys right away that even though PK has tremendously improved and he has led our defense to some of the best defenses we've ever seen, he is notorious for running the prevent defense at the end of the game. And we're never able to just put away a game. And that's exactly what happened here against Kentucky. And I will agree with you there. There is no reason a quarterback like Connor Blomey should be able to drive the field and get a tying field goal at the end of it just should not happen, and it did. And that's a factor of, again, the game plan on the team is we fell back into coverage and doing some pretty easy completions and running for him to scramble.
Yeah, it's like a yearly thing at this point. Last year, Ohio State before halftime, prevent defense. Red River with I can't remember what year it was. Is it 23 with Dylan Gabriel? Last drive, prevent defense. I just don't get it. Like, there's got to be a point where you kind of snap out of it. But yeah, either way, PK he's making all the money for us right now, and blank check probably coming soon for him unless he doesn't figure out that prevent defense. But yeah, Zach, that is the Kentucky game. I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch up on. That's pretty much all I got on my notes. I don't know. Anything else in this game?
Yeah. I think overall shout outs to Colin Simmons, to Mohammed, and to Shipley. Honestly, without them, it's a performance and a loss that is up there with the Kansas loss from years back. So huge shout out to them three. Honestly, they were the three that showed up this weekend.
Yeah. And Sark mentioned it in his press conference, but Colin Simmons corrected him. Did you like that as a leadership moment for Colin Simmons, Zach?
What was that again? Sorry.
How Sark said in his press conference, this game was won by special teams and defense, but then Colin Simmons is like, no, offense won it too. Good leadership moment. Not really truthful, but good leadership moment.
Yeah. He stepped into like what we were seeing from Arch earlier in the year. I think Arch was trying to be that calming presence, trying to deflect when controversy was coming the way and kind of wearing it on his shoulders. So I'm glad to see it. It is definitely a maturity moment. It is definitely a leadership moment. We were critical of Colin Simmons earlier in the year that he was trying to do too much. He was actually hurting the team. And these past 3 weeks now, he's been a true difference maker, and I think the player that we were hoping for all year. So yeah, I was happy to see that and happy to see the performances recently on the field.
Yeah. Alrighty then. That is the Kentucky game recap. What do you say we start previewing Mississippi State?
Yep, let's jump into it.
All right. So we're going to try and hype up this game as much as possible. All right. So Texas will be traveling to Starkville, Mississippi, to take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Texas marches in this game 5-2 overall with a 2-1 record in the SEC. Mississippi State still does not have a win in the SEC. However, they are 4-3 with some notable wins. Those being against Arizona State, as well as some other teams. My internet's really slow. However, all-time meeting between the two teams, Texas leads 3-2 overall. Last win coming last season, and Mississippi State visit to DKR. The last time Texas traveled to Starkville was in 1992. Sorry about that. Wrong. 1991. I'm sorry. 1992. That's the last time Mississippi State beat Texas. That game was in Austin. And the game the year before, 1991, Texas traveled to Starkville and lost that game 13-6. It's been over 20. It's been over 30 years since the last time Texas has been beaten by Mississippi State and has traveled to Starkville. So some trends for this upcoming week. Just a quick breakdown of Mississippi State. They are led by head coach Texas is very familiar with. He was the offensive coordinator for OU for some time, beat us a couple times in the Red River game. There is led by Blake Shaven. It's also however, Blake Shaven has been hurt every time his team has played against Texas, and that was when he was at Baylor. So he's a pretty sound quarterback, throwing for 1,500 yards a season, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Buffalo, their leading rusher this season, who has 465 yards on the ground, through 84 carries and 6 touchdowns. He faced out here at the University of Alabama. Just got to shout him out real quick. He's actually giving me some money last year. Did bet on him for some anytime touchdowns. He always came through. And then a very familiar face, Zach, is Brendan Thompson, who who's leading Mississippi State this year, receiving yards, 133 yards through the air with 4 touchdowns. For those of you that don't know, he was a Texas commit, stayed with us for a year, transferred to OU out of spite for hating on Texas, and now he's at Mississippi State, probably following along Jeff Lebby. But yeah, he was on us at one point. And as far as the Texas personnel, players currently out, Michael Taft and Cole Hudson. For those of you that didn't see, Michael Taft this past week underwent thumb surgery on Monday. It was speculated that he hurt his thumb on the 4th down goal line stand against Kentucky. So no timetable on his return. However, they do speculate he will not be out for the season. So we'll hope to see him sometime for, hopefully for the A&M game. And then Pro Bowl players, C.J. Baxter-Zach, we're hoping to see him. He's had a good week of practice so far. And Xavier Tilson, who should be one of the backup safeties covering in for Michael Taft this season. Yeah, we're traveling to Mississippi State. We're set with 7.5 underdogs. 7.5 point favorites. Point total set at 46.5. I'm a little worried about this game because, Mississippi State can have a high ceiling given what they've done this past season. And I think they can smell it in the water, Zach. This is a game they love to have.
Yeah, AJ. Similar to Arkansas, Mississippi State is a team that I don't think many people had high expectations coming in for. And it kind of shifted around where they played some scrappy football, have been involved in games that people probably didn't foresee them being involved in. And as you said, after coming off the Kentucky game, after just seeing the struggles of our offense throughout, similar to what I talked about, like our outlook on our team is, I think Mississippi State is coming into this game that knowing that more than likely our offense is going to allow them to hang around in this game. And as you said, smell blood in the water, and you never know what can happen when it gets to the fourth quarter when you're in an environment similar, or when you're in an environment like Starkville. Stark has already talked about the preparations that they're taking with pumping in cowbell sounds throughout the practices this week. So it's going to be interesting. It is a very scary game. 7.5 seems like a very generous spread, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that close under a touchdown, honestly, come game day. But yeah, it's going to be tough, AJ. You talked about several players on the Mississippi State side. So it's finally going to be the season that we get to see Blake Shapen. He's a solid, above average quarterback, I'll say. He can manage the game. He can use his legs. He can make some throws. And we missed out on the opportunity of facing him a couple times back to his days in Baylor. Obviously, didn't see him last year against Mississippi State either. So this time we get to see a former player that is in the receiver role. Physical, you talked about him, Brothwell, who I am also familiar with because I've played him before in the fantasy sports. So yeah, it should be a good game. This is a very scrappy team that's kind of finding themselves. And as you said, Texas is just not coming in on the highest of notes. Texas has now been on the road. This will be the third consecutive. Of course, OU was a home consecutive. But to be away from DKR, away from your fans and your ability for last year, it is tough. And we need this to be a stretch in the schedule that was going to be tough. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge overall. Glad it's not at night. However, this fourth quarter will probably be hitting nighttime. So we'll still get a flavor of that as well. But AJ, I agree with you. There's reason to believe that there is blood in the water here, and it's going to be a game that's definitely going to have me at the edge of my seat. However, that seat will be at a wedding, AJ, so I'm not going to be able to see this game completely. I'm going to rely on you for some text messages because I will be at a wedding this weekend at the same time of the game.
Oh, nice. The wedding in San Antonio?
No, actually flying out to North Carolina, so it's going to be a one-day trip. I'll fly out like at 6 a.m., get there in time, drive out to the wedding, which is like an hour from the airport, and then come back in the night and then fly out Sunday morning again. So that's gonna make a quick turnaround.
Oh, nice in and out trip, Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, congratulations to whoever is getting married. But yeah, Zach, this you know what vibes this game gives me. I think it was 2021. Yeah, it was 2020. Yeah, it had to have been 2022. It was Quinn's first year with Texas. Yeah, it was 2022 actually. Or no, was it? Yeah, 2022. We travel to Oklahoma State. It's a very windy game. The Pokes are out. Quinn literally has like a 30% completion percentage, and it was like one of the worst quarterback performances I've ever seen. And we ended up losing that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of like the vibe. It's like similar vibe that I'm getting for this game, where it's like, all right, this is going to be a very ugly watch, and this is only going to make things worse for the Longhorns. And that's what I'm hoping it's not. Somehow we're favored in this game by more than a touchdown right now. I don't get it. I mean, paper like I said, paper to paper, Texas clears this team easily, but it's just the mental part of the game that can really throw things off, and I think Vegas isn't taking that into account. But yeah, I think Mississippi State's got blood. They can smell the blood, and this team I feel like is good enough to beat Texas if we allow them to at any point.
Yeah, we play anywhere close to what we played like in Kentucky, and we will come out of Starkville with a loss. They are a head and shoulders better team than what we faced in against Kentucky. They have a lot more ability on offense to make us pay for not playing any offense on our end. So that's just where I stand on that. But yeah, I don't know. As you said, AJ, this is a question I wanted to ask you since seeing the lines. I'm not sure if you saw the look ahead line, but we're also 2.5 point favorites against Vanderbilt, who is currently ranked in the top 10. Are we the last? Are we? No, it's not us. Is Vegas the last people in on Texas? Because I feel like even you and I, as diehard Texas fans, I think we're being honest with ourselves and like, yes, we should be favored to win against Mississippi State. I don't know about 7.5. I don't think we should be favored against Vanderbilt. I guess the only reason we are is because we're at home. But yeah, is Vegas the last people in on Texas so far?
Yeah, they definitely are. But at the same time, they've been right a couple times. With OU, we ended up being favored, even with Mateer playing. What else? What other game am I thinking of where it was just... San Houston State, 31 points spread. Couldn't come out against San Jose State. Magically win 55-0. That's a good point, Zach. They are 1%. The last guys back his team, because he had been favored every game, even for the Ohio State game. Ohio State ended up closing up as the favorite, but he still opened up as favorites for that game. And yeah, that is super weird. I think about it. But yeah, the Vanderbilt game, I don't understand. They're a very solid squad, and it's so weird seeing us favored. I get we're at home too, but it's just so weird seeing us being favored for that game in general.
Yeah, as you said, against any team in the nation, on paper, we are there with them, if not better than them. At the end of the day, I think it's the eye test. We're able to see what this team is, and right now they should not be favored in the Vanderbilt game. They should not be favored in the Georgia game. They should not be favored in the A&M game. And for some reason, we're still favored against Vanderbilt. So we'll see what happens with Georgia and A&M down the line. But yeah, it is interesting to see. I guess it's a good thing. I will never complain that Vegas has us as a favorite because Vegas knows best. But yeah, this weekend's going to be a tough one, AJ. I personally think so. I do think that this can also be a turning point. If you're able to go into Starkville, if you're able to just ride the adversity that you've been having, play through the injuries that you've been having, and it needs to be more of a closer to a dominant performance than what you had against Kentucky. I don't think it could be a turning point if you go in and win by a field goal in a very ugly game. That's just like win and survive. But I do think if you're able to go in there, put together some solid drives in both halves, allow your defense to just be your defense, I do think it can be a turning point of the season. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I do think that's just the coping mechanism in my own head, and just hoping that this outlook of this Texas season turns around sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely puts us in a good spot to turn things around. Don't know how possible it is, but like I said, the optimism is sometimes there from Vegas, and I hate it because it gives me optimism too. All right, Zach, let's get a little bit more deeper into this game. Let's go through our usual offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, and our score predictions. I'll let you take this one first for the offense.
Yeah,
Let me know who you
For
got.
my offensive player, AJ, I'm going to take CJ Baxter. So I know you talked about it a little bit in the injury report. He is listed as probable. He's looked good in practice, according to reports and from Sark. So it is expected that he is back. We really haven't seen him and Weisner on the field much, if at all, this season. So I'm excited to have him back. They did make comments that we shouldn't expect him to come out of Starkville with like 20 plus carries. So it shouldn't be like a run dominant, CJ Baxter dominant. I think they're going to ease him in. But just having his physical nature back in the backfield, his dynamic ability out of the backfield, I think is going to be a boost to the team overall. He is somebody that plays hungry. You could tell that he is somebody that just wants to be on the field after missing last season as well and the early part of this season with injuries. So I'm excited to have him back. I hope he just changes up the offense just a little bit and helps out in the offensive pass game. This offensive line needs all the help they can get. So if we're able to get a physical back who can find the holes, I'll take it.
Yeah, we need this guy. Even if he goes for, 10 touches, 10 for 50 and a touchdown, I'm happy. That's all I need. I mean, we're averaging 1.7 yards per carry from last game. So anything greater than really 3 yards a carry, I will take. And I think we're able to do that against a weak Mississippi State defensive front. For my offensive player of the game, Zach, I'm going with nobody. This team on the offense is just outright terrible. One of the worst offenses I've really seen come out of Texas. I can't even highlight any offensive line players because they're really that bad. Arch Manning burned me last game. I thought this is going to be his, cementing himself as a top quarterback. And yeah, he just completely let me down. So I have no faith really in this offense. CJ Baxter, I guess, would be my pick if he does play. One of the last few remaining traces of Tashard choice on this team. So yeah, I guess I'll go with CJ Baxter here.
Yeah, and I'll say this, AJ, is that even ESPN, like again, Vegas might be the last one in on Texas. Even ESPN last week was kind of like our earlier part of the season was like, oh, even Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Archie Manning struggled in their first game. Oh, they also struggled in their first SEC game, and they kept on putting out stats. And then they put up the stats this past week against Kentucky, and everybody was successful except Arch. So I think even ESPN is out at this point in time. And as you said, like he burned you. It's been tough to see this offense. There is very low lights on this offense, so I don't blame you for that pick overall. One thing I think worth mentioning, AJ, Diablito reported this morning that he had a dream that CJ Baxter was running for 100. I don't know if we'll see 100. But I'm hoping Diablito's dream is somewhat similar, and if it is, then I have full confidence we win this game.
God, I hope he's right. I hope he goes. I mean, if he goes for like 10 and 100, give me that. Yeah. Hopefully, Diablito comes through with us because he's usually pretty accurate about his CJ Baxter takes. For some reason, I don't know why. But I'll carry that over to Zach to defensive player of the game. Like I mentioned, the forefronts of Mississippi State are very weak. Blake Shapen, he is a scrambling quarterback, but he's nothing really over the top or special. Think of him as like a more accurate Cutter Boley, in my opinion. So with that, I think that's going to take a lot of contained work needed from our defense. Colin Simmons, he's going to come through again for us this week. Expect to get him a couple sacks this past weekend. Hopefully a forced fumble and a recovered fumble. I think he's really starting to pick up some steam. And yeah, I expect him to have a good outing this upcoming Saturday for the Longhorns. Yep. What about you, Zach? What do you got?
I was back and forth on this one, AJ. I'm going to go with where we have an injury. Michael Taft is going to be a big blow. He does a lot for this defense. He plays a great safety out on the back end as a last line of defense. He also has the ability to come downhill and help out in the run game. So I do think that impact is going to be felt. I do hope he gets out there sooner rather than later. I would love to see Michael Taft game with a club on his hand. But with that being said, I do think it leaves a void, and I hope Derek Williams, who's going to be my defensive player of the game, is able to step in. Obviously, again, another highly touted recruit that we were very excited about when he committed to Texas, has had very limited playing time, has had spot starts here and there. I'm hoping that he is able to show out, have that again. What we've been asking for is to start seeing some of our young players make impacts. We see young players make impacts across the nation. I'm hoping in this sense we're able to see the emergence of Derek Williams, and he is able to just be a plug and play here for Michael Taft while he is out, and just show his ability both in the run department as well as being that last line of defense in the secondary.
Okay. I can see Derek Williams, a couple picks last season before sustaining a season-ending injury. Yep. Very good player. I like him. I like him a lot. Good pick, Zach. What about your score prediction?
Score prediction, AJ. I'm gonna be going. I want to say I have it written down. I want to say it's 20-13. I'm confirming what I wrote down just so there's no. Yeah, 20-13. So I am gonna be taking the under. Even if our offense plays better than last week, I can't say a miles better performance either. So I'm going to be taking just a moderate improvement. I'm going to lean on our defense. I'm going to be taking 20-13 here.
Hey, Texas unders and their opponents covering. It's been money all year, really. Besides the OU game, yep. All the unders still covered. But good take, Zach. I'm along the same border as you. I'm gonna take 24-13. Last week, I don't know what I was thinking Texas can score more than 30 points in an SEC game. They have yet to do that against a Power 5 opponent this season. So I am not touching the 30s anymore for this team. I do think we cover this game. Like I said, Vegas knows something, and I'm gonna trust them, and I'm gonna trust my own assessment and evaluation of this team. And, I think they cover this game with ease. They win 24-13.
I like it, AJ.
All righty, so we have C.J. Baxter as our consensus offensive player of the game. We have Colin Simmons and Derek Williams having both great games for our defense. And Zach and I both have Texas winning by at least a touchdown against Mississippi State. I have 24-13. Zach has 20-13. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. I have not been very good in predicting Texas final scores this season, Zach. It's like I said, it's hard to judge this team really, but yeah, hopefully this could be the week. This could be the week.
Yep. Let's hope for a change.
Yep. All right, ZT. Anything else before I take us away for some 40 Acre Sports and then covering our picks against the spread?
No, AJ, go ahead and take us away.
All right, I'm going to run through this list real quick. So, like we mentioned last episode, men's basketball opens up their first game against the Duke Blue Devils, who are the 6th overall team. And Texas takes them on November 4th. NBA opening night featured, or NBA opening weekend featured Kevin Durant, Trey Johnson, who is the highly touted rookie lottery pick this season. Jericho Sims will also be playing, Jared Allen, Jackson Hayes, Miles Turner, all of our bigs. So good luck to them. A few teams lost, but we wish them the best of luck this opening week and this season. Women's basketball, they opened up their first game against the University of the Incarnate Word on November 3rd, right before Texas takes on Duke. Quick notes for this team. Madison Booker will be returning, and she is named as the AP preseason All-American. We know she was part of the magical run towards the Final Four last season, so shout out to her. Volleyball is still looking good. They beat OU in 4 sets, so OU still sucks even on the volleyball court. Volleyball is still second in the nation with a whopping 4 first-place votes, so Nebraska is still taking the helm, but Texas not too far behind them. Texas' Tori Stafford, also for this OU game, had 17 kills and was named as the player of the game. She's been balling out. She's been looking real good. But yeah, all in all, we're excited for where this team goes, and I am going to pull up some Texas soccer real quick because it's very hard to cover them now because of how much they quote-unquote suck. But recent results, they did take on. Sorry, where is it? It's went up here. Texas did take on Georgia and Oklahoma since the last time we recorded. Lost both of those games 2-4. So we're scoring, but our other teams, our opponents are scoring a little bit more. Texas drops to 3-12-1 overall. They are currently on a 5-game losing streak. Yes, you heard that correctly. In conference play, Texas is 1-8 overall, and this puts us second to last in SEC standings. So yeah, very hard for our soccer team to win games. However, volleyball is looking good, and then of course we have men's basketball and women's basketball to cover for next week. So we'll be previewing that. But yeah, Zach, let's get into our final segment of the episode, and that is our Week 9 picks against the spread. I will go ahead and take mine first. So first game of the week, Zach, LSU to cover 2.5 points against A&M. I refuse to believe A&M is a top 10 team this season. Maybe they're top 25, but they're definitely cruising within the 15 to 25 range. So I'm going to trust my assessment of this bad A&M team. I think LSU picks up this win. They have yet to score over 20 points in a win this season. So yeah, no, sorry, against an FBS opponent. I think they did get it done against A&M. Defense is very weak. A&M's defense also led up a whopping 42 points for Arkansas last week. I think LSU can finally get it done at home. So give me the Tigers to cover 2.5 points. I'm also taking SMU to cover 3.5 points against Wake Forest. I know the spread is very small and could be a trap for most bettors, but I'm going to still stick with SMU here just because of their talent. Talent gap between Wake Forest. So yeah, give me the ponies to cover this game. Last game I'm going to take Nebraska -7. I think this is a bounce back game against Northwestern. Northwestern I think is bound for regression. They've had a few close games and a few good wins, but yeah, I think this is the week that they kind of break down. And yeah, Nebraska wins by a touchdown. I believe it's at 7.5 now, so I'll change that to 7.5. So I got LSU plus 2.5, SMU minus 3.5, and Nebraska minus 7.5. And Zach, you have.
Yep. Well, great picks first and foremost, AJ. I'm gonna be opposing you on one of these picks, but I like that Nebraska pick, AJ. I think it's even though it's 7.5 point line, I do think it's an underdog or sneaky pick in terms of being a blowout possibility, as you were saying. I do think Northwestern is due for a regression, as you said, and Nebraska probably plays a little bit hungry under Matt Rule after that loss last week. So yeah, I agree with you on that. In terms of my picks here, AJ, I'm going to be going the other way. I'm going to preface this. The reason why my pick here is my pick is it worked last week against Texas Tech. I picked Texas Tech, who was 6-0 against the spread going into last week. They did not only not cover the spread, they ended up dropping their game. We were texting about it, AJ. Who did they lose to?
Arizona State.
Arizona State ended up doing the Lord's work, as you said. They forked them up pretty good. So, yeah, I think it's going to be here, and that's why I'm going to be going this way. At no point in time am I actually rooting for this team, but I'm going to be taking A&M minus 2.5 after a long-winded explanation. Also with you, AJ, I am still a little bit curious about this team, but I do think they are better than LSU. And at the end of the day, I'm hoping the same thing that happened against Texas Tech last week happens here against A&M. So give me A&M minus 2.5. And then I'm going to be taking another 2.5 here, AJ. And actually, I'm going to change my last pick, AJ. So my picks here are all spreads of 2.5. That's going to be my method for this week. So I have Vandy as my second pick as 2.5 point favorites. Don't really understand. I don't know. I think Vandy is getting a lot of disrespect. I know they're facing Missouri, but Missouri has also been on the road now 2 weekends in a row. They've had some letdown performances. Bo Prabula looked great at the beginning of the year, did not look so great against Alabama. I'm predicting a little bit of the same here against Vanderbilt. So I'll take Vanderbilt as a 2.5 point favorite at home against Missouri. And then last pick here, again, another 2.5 point favorite. I'm going to be taking Arkansas. As AJ said, I've been a little bit of a fan here of Jalen Green. You saw what they were able to do against A&M, or you probably didn't see because they got kicked off of the ESPN broadcast in favor of Texas. But I'll be taking Arkansas as a 2.5-point favorite. I do think their offense is dynamic enough to go ahead and cover this number against Auburn. I do think this is the weekend that all wheels fall off, and Auburn is the next program to have a coach firing. So give me our Arkansas to go ahead and cover the spread at 2.5.
Nothing like the good old reverse jinx, am I right, ZT?
Yep.
Yeah, all 2.5 spreads. That's interesting.
Yeah, and all in the SEC, and people are talking about the SEC being the Big 12 in terms of unpredictability. So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, it really has been. Speaking of that, Zach, this past week, I mean, it was pretty interesting. Things are shaking up for the SEC. Teams are kind of starting to separate themselves. Were you at all surprised by the results this past weekend?
I don't know about surprised, AJ. I just think, again, I do think this is going to be the SEC in terms of everybody beats up on everybody, but I do think you said it a couple weeks ago already, and maybe even last week, that Alabama does seem like the tier above everybody else at this point in time in terms of the offensive play as well as the defensive play. I do think it was just a slip up against Florida State. They tried to play from behind, and it just wasn't their weekend that weekend in those in that forecast as well. But I don't see another blemish like that this year. I do think they've already cemented themselves as a SEC championship contender. So, but other than that, I do think the SEC is firmly up for grabs. I do think it's going to be close games between us and Georgia, us and A&M. I do think this LSU and A&M game is going to have a lot of disparities as well. LSU's back is against the wall here. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting, AJ. Nothing really surprising. I do think, again, the SEC is the Big 12 of this year.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch the SEC. And, Vanderbilt's looking good. I'd put them in not the elite tier with Alabama, but probably the tier below them. But other than that, I mean, I think I need to see Bama play from behind first and seeing them win the game before I'm fully sold on them. But right now, I think they're my number one in the SEC. Disappointed by Tennessee in that game. I guess they're frauds. And, Georgia once again still proving that they're the real deal.
Yeah. Tennessee's so surprised. That's the one, I guess, AJ. Tennessee is so surprising year after year. And I don't know why we're surprised, right? They just defraud everybody. They are the Chauncey Billups, I guess you can say, of the SEC, defrauding everyone every single year. You believe that they're going to be something, no matter what quarterback they bring in, no matter how much they pay him. It just seems like they're always going to fall short. They are always going to be short to Alabama or to Georgia or to both, if not just to the rest of the SEC in general. So, yeah, it went from a team that seemed like they might have a chance at the Elite Eight at the beginning of the year to almost nothing at this point in time. That one's been a surprise for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's another week of where we figure out who the real contenders are in the SEC, and who are the pretenders. Texas still on the ropes for us, but I think for the rest of the nation, they're pretenders. But we'll see where these go. So real quick, just to recap our picks, I got LSU plus 2.5. Zach has A&M minus 2.5. I have SMU minus 3.5 and Nebraska minus 7.5. Zach has Vanderbilt minus 2.5 against Missouri and Arkansas minus 2.5 against Auburn. So hopefully we end up 5-1, best case scenario on the week. But at least we will not end up without a win. So. Yeah, well, we'll see where things go there. But Zach, anything else before we close out the episode?
I didn't get to comment. I loved your sports rundowns of Texas Sports, AJ. One thing I didn't get to comment, and I know we've been wondering all year what is going on with the rankings for volleyball. I did see a stat, AJ, so I guess it's because we're just really not in tune with the whole volleyball world as we are with the football world. Stats, and this was back on Tuesday, so if it's changed since then, I apologize. But that did say that there was that Nebraska hasn't dropped a set. So I know we were on an impressive sweeps streak, but Nebraska hasn't dropped a set in the past, I think it was 16 or 17 games. That's pretty impressive. I will have to say that the Fighting Lady Cho boys, I was only familiar with her game. I wasn't familiar with the rest of the game, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Both teams, again, I think we're set for a collision course in the NCAA tournament. But it does shine a little bit of light of what was going on there.
Yeah, but I mean, they're still not playing the teams that we're playing. Like they're not. I don't know how many top 10 wins that we have. I think last time we did a sense check, we had more ranked wins. Again, they're playing cupcakes, but yeah, gotta give their flowers. Not dropping a set, still very impressive.
Yeah, both teams very impressive. I just, whenever you have a discrepancy of the nature, I looked into both teams, did my deep research, and was able to find that. And yeah, I was doing my due diligence on the Instagrams, and I ended up finding that when I went down a rabbit hole of the Lainey Cho boys.
Yeah, Lainey Cho boy, shout out to her. She is the face of volleyball for our podcast.
Yeah, if you ever want to come on the pod and just have a lighthearted discussion about the volleyball world and where you see Texas in your ranks, we'd be happy to have you on.
Or debate. We can also debate that too.
Yeah, I'm also down to debate it. We can do a cash prize at the end or some sort of prize. Yeah, whatever it may be.
All right, that's enough there. All right, GT, thank you for throwing in that stat. Anything else before we close out the episode?
I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, AJ. Thank you very much for holding off on this. Apologies if this episode is coming out late. Everybody had some change of plans and busy in the midst of a possible another travel weekend. So appreciate everybody's patience. Appreciate your patience, AJ. And let's just pray to God we have a change in Texas football this week.
Yeah, we're still getting out our episodes. But yeah, hope everyone has a great weekend. Zach, I hope you have a great trip to North Carolina for the wedding. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope everyone watches some Longhorn sports. And hey, no matter how bad it gets, at least we will never be A&M or OU. So let's hope for a big win against Mississippi State this weekend, and we will catch you all next week for episode 10. Hook 'em, everyone.
Hook 'em.